So a gorgeous afternoon to everyone. My name is Irish Arman Sile and I'll be the reporter for today, and our topic for today is sociological perspective. Topic for today is sociological perspective. So now let's first define what is sociology. Sociology is a study of development, structure, functioning of human society, and also the relationship. So basically, sociological perspective is a basic insight of sociology that says human behavior is shaped by the groups to which people they belong and by the social interaction that takes place within those groups. So the best example for this is our primary significant others, which is our family, because it family gave a big impact on how we act, behave, and also we develop. What is the sociological lens and sociological cohort? So first is the sociological lens. It is how we view the situation of others and the world around us. So sociological lens, it is referring to how a person view a given situation. So, like the race, culture, religion, and the economic status are just some of the factors that influence the person's view of the world. So, the best example of this, if napanood mo nyo man, yung Squid Game, which is my theme for today, uh, I I remembered one of the players says mas gusto niyang mamatay sa loob ng laro na magkakaroon pa siya ng chance na manalo ng napakaraming pera kaysa naman magstay siya sa labas ng laro na mamamatay din naman siya since sobrang na siyang naghihirap and hinahabol na siya ng pinagkakautangan niya. So, yun yung one of the example. The sociological cohort, it is a collection of people who share the experience or characteristic over time. So I think my example for this is our friends, because it is a group or collection of people na nag-share ng kanilang experience, also their characteristic. Since I already differentiate what is the difference between sociological lens and sociological cohort, and also I define already the sociology, allow me to introduce these two wonderful person. They are the author of this article, The Reflective Self, a Sociological Perspective. It is the article I used for this presentation. They are Mr. Frank Falk and Miss or Mrs. Nancy B. Miller. The three people or person you're seeing right now are the three important persons in this study, which are William James, Mr. William James, Mr. George Herbert Mead, and also Mr. John Dewey. So Mr. John Dewey is a influential person in the field of education, while Mr. William James is a psychologist, and also Mr. Mead is a sociologist. I'm sorry if I am looking down because I'm also checking the presentation. I just want you guys to know. So these three people shares the two major idea, which are the dual nature of the self and the looking glass self. So for the dual nature of the self, it believes that we experience the self as the both subjective and objective, the I and me. So for the I, which is the subjective, dito iniisip mo lang yung sarili mo. You don't care about the society or other people. You only care about yourself. On the other hand, the me or the objective, dito hindi na lang sarili mo ang iniisip mo. You care about people, you care about those people na around you, and also you care about the expectation of the society. And for the second idea, which is the looking glass self, it defined through, or the self is defined through the interaction with others. It implies that it is by observing the responses of other that a person comes to know and judge who she is. So dito, I have a complicated example since I'm going to explain it really long. So, for example, ikaw to. This is you or this is me, this is the person. So, may apat kang taong malapit sa'yo, may apat na taong groups of people na malapit sa'yo. So, this is your family. This is your parents. So, here naman, your social friend, your social media's friend, your friends. And ito, yung boss mo. Kung nagtatrabaho ka man, this is your boss. And this one is your teacher, schoolmates, classmate. So, ito yung mga nasa school. So, here, kung ikaw to, iba't iba yung behavior, yung action na pinapakita mo sa apat na category na to. So, for example, from your family. So, your parents see you as an angel. Kasi napakabait mong anak, sobrang mong masunurin. So, yung parents mo, akala nila, angel ka sa sobrang bait mo. While yung social friend mo, yung social media friend mo, yung mga friends mo, ang tingin sa'yo masamang tao ka o masamang bata ka kasi kung ano-ano na lang yung sinishare mo, kung ano-ano yung sinasabi mo sa kanila o kung barubal ka man or what. So, this one is your boss. So, yung mga nakakataas sa'yo, ang tingin nila sa'yo, apakababa mo, napakababa. So, this one sa school, your schoolmate, classmate, and your professor. So, as a student, lagi mo silang, you're being active at school. So, ang tingin sila sa'yo, napakatalino mo. So, by these 4 categories of person na malapit sa'yo, you get those idea, you get those words or yung mga sayings nila sa'yo, and by that, you create your own definition and of yourself. So, ganun yung the looking glass self. So, now you are seeing a picture. It is the figure 1, the components of reflective self. With this study po kasi, which is the perspective or sociological perspective, you will develop a reflective self. So, kung nakikita nyo man in the middle, may nakalagay reflective self, then parang nagkakaroon siya ng cycle. Sa lower part, yung mga tong nakikita nyo sa lower part, yung mga self-perception, self-recognition, these are the series of stages na pinropose ng article na gawa ni Mr. Falk and Miss Miller para ma-develop po yung reflective self. So now, let's proceed to the developing self. So our first series or the stages for the development of reflective self. So, here in developing self, there are 2 biologically based process, the self-perception and self-recognition. So, the first is self-perception. It is transferring perceptual experiences into memory and associate sights and sound with its source. So, here, ang example ko dito is yung nasa memory natin, yung taste natin, yung touch, yung nakikita, naririnig natin, pumapasok kasi yan sa memory natin. Then by that, naaalala na natin siya. Kunyari, may ginawa ka noon, then nakita mo yung isang bagay na hinawakan mo noon na ginamit mo sa ginawa mo na yon. Kapag nakita mo uli yun, papasok sa utak mo, uy, parang nagawa ko na to ah. Medyo malabo. So, pasok uli natin yung Squid Game. So, si player 256, yung pinakabida, kung naalala nyo man yung Dalgona Candy, so, diba, nung mga bata sila, nilaro na talaga nila yon. And, yung nakita niya yon and tumulo yung sweat niya dun sa candy, diba ginano niya yun sa araw, ay yung sa light. So, parang tinignan niya, or pumasok sa memory niya yung dati niyang ginawa, and, inaisip niya na, oh, pwede pala yung Bilic para mabilis niyang matanggal yung shape from that candy. So, nung ginawa niya yun, diba nagkaroon naman ng result? So, dalawa lang kasi magiging result nun. It's either mamatay siya dahil hindi niya ginawa, or nung ginawa niya, magsusurvive siya. So, yun yung self-perception. Yung ginawa mo na noon, then pumapasok na lang sa memory mo. O kahit yung mga ginagawa mo na yon, just like what you see, kung may kinain ka naman, yung taste buds mo, maaalala niya yan. Yung touch mo, yung nahawakan mo, yung naamoy mo, papasok agad yan sa memory mo. Now, let's continue with the self-recognition. So, here naman sa self-recognition, it is the ability to recognize one's own image. So, here, my example is a kid. Yung mga baby. So, di ba yung mga baby, kapag hawak sila ng mga nanay nila, close open. So, yung close open, ginagawa yun ng parents first. Then, yung mga baby, nakikita nila yun. Then, ginagaya nila. So, alam naman natin tuwang-tuwa yung mga nanay kapag nagaya ng anak, 'di ba? So, yung mga align, yung thumbs up. Then, yung example din dito is for a toddlers. So, yung mga toddlers, ang tawag nila dyan sa parents nila is mama, papa, daddy, or what. So, first, hindi nila masyado familiarize yung I, me, you, yourself. So, here by self-recognition, pwede na nilang ma-familiarize yung mga words na yon if yung parents nila is mahilig gumamit nun. So, for example, daddy wants to go. Or sinabi naman ng parents na, I will go now. So, ang ano ng mga bata is, you want to go? So, parang ganun yung magiging self-recognition. Let's proceed to the second one, which is the self-efficacy. So, self-efficacy is knowing that a person can accomplish an intended act and recognizing that the consequences of such act are the result of her own initiative is what is meant by being efficacious. So here, dito na papasok yung ability mo or yung tiwala mo sa sarili mo kung magagawa mo ba yung act na naiisip mo or hindi. So, dito kasi nare-recognize mo kung kaya mo na ba siyang gawin or hindi. So, for example, a kid ulit, ang bata. So, I'm gonna give a name, kunyari Elijah. So, si Elijah, alam niyo sa sarili niya na marunong siyang magbihis. Alam niya na kung paano magbihis mag-isa, pero yung mami niya, lagi siyang tinutulungan magbihis. So, ang nasa isip ni Elijah, she want to ask her mom if pwede bang itry niyang magbihis siya mag-isa since kaya niya naman. So here, alam niya na yung intended, yung nare-recognize niya na yung magiging act niya, and alam niya na kung mako-accomplish niya man or hindi, and alam niya na rin yung magiging consequences. So nung nagkaroon na siya ng courage na i-ask yung mom niya, so pinagbigyan siya. And by the result, nagawa niya naman ng tama. So, alam niya na, or dito, alam niya na yung magiging result nun, and nagawa niya naman ng tama. So, another example is sa Squid Game. So, kung natatandaan niya man, or kung may hindi man nakapanood pa ng Squid Game dito, I'm sorry if I am spoiling too much. So, here, sa Squid Game uli, kung natatandaan niyo yung parang hilaan ng lubid. So, 'di ba, alam nilang hindi nila kayang gawin eh. Yung sa grupo ni na player 1, yung matanda. Alam nila na hindi nila kayang gawin, nagkakaroon sila ng doubt sa sarili nila. So, si player 1, naisip niyang i-share yung tricks niya, yung, parang ganun-ganon na tao. So, alam niya na yung, nare-recognize na yung magiging result, and dalawa lang yung result nun. Una, mananalo sila. Pangalawa, natatalo and mamamatay sila. So, by the intended act, alam nyo na yung magiging consequences, pero tinuloy niya pa rin yung yung plano niya. And kung nalaman nyo man, o kung napanood nyo naman, alam nyo na yung naging result, 'di ba? So, ayoko na mag-spoil na ng too much, baka yung magalit. So, the next one is the self-image and self-concept. Kung naaalala nyo man yung sinabi ko kanina about sa looking glass self, yung dinidefine mo yung sarili mo on how person define you, dito rin papasok yung self, dito rin siya papasok sa self-image and self-concept, because self-image and concept is a representation of self that changes within the across situation as a role expectation change. So, here naman, example na lang natin is yung mga teacher. So, as a teacher, iba yung characteristic and behavior na pinapakita nila sa student nila, and iba rin yung pinapakita nila sa family nila. As a son or as a daughter, iba yung pinapakita nila as a granddaughter. And as a friend, iba-iba yung pinapakita nilang characteristic and behavior. Kasi, doon na nag-iiba yung self-image din nila and yung self-concept nila. So, everyday, nag-change yung role nila, and not everyday, since everyday naman may meet nila yung parents and yung student nila. So, I think every time. So, kunyari, uuwi na sila, mag-change na yung role nila. Magiging daughter na sila or son na sila. Hindi na sila teacher. Yun yung self-image and self-concept. So now seeing a photo again, which is the figure 2, the formalized self-image process. So here makikita nyo sa gitna ulit is yung self-image and parang nagkakaroon ulit siya ng cycle but sa labas na is may three types na umiikot. So, the first one is the behavior of self, second is the response of other, and the last one is perception of others' response. So, as shown in a model, a person's self-image influences the way she behaves and also the responses of others and the way she accepts the perception or the perception of other responses. Pero here kasi sa self-image, hindi lang siya basta-basta tumutukoy sa behavior mo and kung paano nag-response yung others sa naging behavior mo. Because self-image also dominated by the changing of physical characteristics like your body, gender identity, your body image, possession, personal characteristics, ganon. Dun din siya umiikot. Let's proceed to the next one, which is the self-esteem. So, self-esteem is a overall opinion of yourself on how you feel about your abilities and limitation. So, in the right side, you can see the sentence of Mr. Johnson's 1992, the theoretical work on the development of the emotional self suggests that pride and shame, emotions which produce a blushing in child, only occur in the immediate presence of other at this time. So here kasi as a child, you still developing your self-esteem. So, hindi siya masyadong mataas. So, kapag nakakamit ka ng ibang tao, parang nagbo-blush ka din. Pero in adolescence kasi, self-esteem is really important. Also, peers become a significant others and it reflected the appraisal's influence of the self. So, dito kasi kapag tumatanda ka na, yung mga friend mo parang nakakatulong na rin para pahalagahan mo na din yung sarili mo. So, for the last stage of the reflective self, which is the confirmation and contradiction, this is the two related process that plays a important role in maintaining a consistent and valid concept or the self-deception and self-discrepancy. So first, let's talk about the self-deception. So self-deception is a process of denying or rationalizing away the relevance, significance, or the importance of opposing evidence and logical argument. So for example of this, you are diving or nagpapakitang gilas ka sa pag-dive, then nung pagka-dive mo, nagkaroon ka ng mistakes and ang pangit ng pagbagsak mo sa tubig. So, one of the viewer shouted na, ay, hindi ka marunong mag-dive. Hindi, mali yan. Pero, you shouted back na, alam ko, I'm just playing and messing around. So, here kasi sa self-deception, you only take the positive sayings from the other or positive feedback. You don't care about negative, parang sarado isip mo dun. So, another example. May kaaway ka, then sinabihan ka, maganda ka lang, pero bobo ka. So, ganon, attitude. So, ang sinagot mo, alam ko, maganda ako. Ganon. So, here's a self-deception. Ang tinatanggap mo lang talaga is positive. You don't care about negative. Walang nega, ganon. So, let's proceed to the second one, which is the self-discrepancy. So, here in the self-discrepancy, may two types siya. So, the first one is the difference between a person's ideal self and her actual self. So, with this discrepancy, it occurs between a person's goal and their attainment. So, for example, I'm going to give a name, pero hindi siya nag-exist. So, kunyari si Alicia. Alicia is a chubby person. So, she loves to eat, ganun. Pero ang goal niya is pumayat. So, nagtitake siya ng mga herbal. Pero, Hindi siya tumitigil sa pagkain. Ayaw niyang mag-exercise. Gusto niyang kumain, matulog, Netflix and chill. A lot of unhealthy stuff. She love doing it. So, ang goal niyang pumayat, pero yung attainment niya o yung ginagawa niya para ma-achieve yung goal niya is kakaiba kasi ayaw niyang tumigil sa mga gawain niyang unhealthy. So, yun yung the discrepancy between the person's ideal self and her actual self. So the next one of the discrepancy is the difference between the actual self and the oath or moral self. So, for example, let's continue with Alicia. So, si Alicia, alam niya sa sarili niya yung rights and wrongs sa ginagawa niya. Gusto niyang pumayat pero ayaw niyang itigil yung mga bad habits niya. Yun yung behavior niya. Alam niya ng mali pero continue niya pa. So, yun yung best example or my example about the difference between the actual self and the oath or moral self. So, that's for my report for today. And again, my topic is sociological perspective. I hope you like it and enjoy it. Have a nice day, everyone.